Hello, welcome to this podcast to nowhere. I think, is this what I'm recording? I don't know. You might ask yourself, what am I listening to? I don't know either. So, welcome for the ride. It's my hope to do a bit of a brainstorming session. I am in the works of creating videos to go along with my sequential growth workbooks. What is sequential growth, you might ask yourself? It's to do with numerical values and growing over time. I mean, math. I don't really know. If you're into numerology, you'll be interested into this. If you are interested in spiritual growth, in alchemy, in light and shadow work, this is relevant. I think it's relevant for problem solving. I think it's relevant for even people who are interested in mathematics, in scientific kind of avenues of life. I think could be applicable to even my most dreaded area of study, if I could ever say there's a dreaded area of discovery. Dare I mention computer science, because I use a computer to literally record this, right? But I'll show my colors. As a true techno-skeptic, I am very much someone who would, define myself as one who prefers life off of screens, away from computer technology, and certainly using it as tools instead of it using us as the tool. There's such a mishmashed swapping of power in that structuring that I don't want to be a part of, really. And so in my own life, I really try to be conscientious about using my screens, my computers, and my phone as actual tools, not just as something to do when I'm bored or habitually just be on. I try when I'm going on there to be on for reasons, and then to be out in my life if I'm bored, looking around at the world, finding something to do, having tangible studies, reading books and doing notes on different topics and concepts that I'm thinking about or discovering within my life, And that has led me, of course, here to sequential growth, one of my sort of baby projects, my sort of own what's the word? Anyway, my own creations, my own sort of bringing together of different ideas that I have learned out there. I see many people talking about it in their own ways, and so I've sort of given it my own way to talk about it as well. What can we do except for create verbiage to describe things, right? That's what humans pretty much do. And so I have sort of termed this phrase sequential growth as the model that we could use as a standby and a structuring, a guiding lines as we create anything and everything. I do think all of life grows through this model, can be used to grow through this model, and I do think that it fundamentally is a understanding and a vision that I'm granted from Source Creator. I do think that there's a beautiful, intelligent design behind the infrastructure and purposing of everything here in our world. And I think that truths ring through the illusions of the world, and so I think this is something that's I am creating to attempt to reflect truth as much as possible. And so I don't really hold any ownership to this. I think every different understanding can even be used and applied and as this is sort of a lens to looking through. Because I think things naturally just hold this resonance. Numbers hold these resonances, is what I mean, to be more specific. So, first and foremost, sequential growth in itself is best described using a 0 to 9 flow. I know there's lots of different reasons we use different subsets of counting and groupings, the 10s and the 12s, and different structurings for patterns and measurements and all. I'm super into all of learning about all the different reasons and ways that people have subsets of these groups used in really conducive, really beautiful ways to, the creation of manyness. I think that's the beauty of building, just like we're given shapes and make things out of them, what we make out of them, none is any less true than what another person chooses to make out of those shapes, So, with that said, I just think for sequential growth, single digits are easily translatable, they are symbolic, they are quantitative and qualitative, and they are small enough, refined, definitive, and foundational enough to be called fundamental. We can easily count through 9 on our fingers. There's no outside help necessary to gain that knowledge. It's very close to each human. And it's so simple, right, that it is teachable to even children. And so as being, honoring the fact that we are all actually children at all times of our lives, no matter how long we've aged on this earth, there's an inner child within us that deserves to be heard. So, and it's just as viable and valuable, just as ever present as your most wise eldest self within you is, Can't have one without the other. In fact, you'll be both, and so you have both within you, Much like we hold all numbers, this is what great potentiality is. This is what I really love about the fact that numbers are not just quantitative, but they're also qualitative. Again, this is why I find it very helpful to bring it to rudimentary understandings, to keep it under 9. It's single digits. It's simplistic. Yes, I can and will talk about master numbers, about sequences, repetitions, what I like to call the dilution process, bringing grander numbers down into the reduction of the single digit. I think has a pathway, much like a river leads to the ocean, that you can learn a lot from where that water came from. Right? As to where that river ran through, and reading the numbers in a way helps us to understand the what's been accumulated and collected down into that reductional single digit value. I also think there's a great value in reading the large numbers and seeing each place value as a generation, knowing that the place value holds gravity, weight, influence. Just like bigger planets hold influence over the smaller planets in the cosmic clock, I think the numbers hold these sort of influential seniorities and impacts the whole number. And so I'll talk about reading numbers at a later time, but you wouldn't even need to hear my talk, because when you understand the qualitative value of each number, and you figure it out right on your own. It's it's like when you learn to sing the ABCs and you learn all of the letters of the alphabet, and the sounds they make, you pretty much can make learn to read. You can pretty much make all words, you know. We can get into trickery of language and pronunciation, sleights of hand, and all of these illusionary things later, control mechanisms of why we write things down and such, versus speech and live word, living the word. But that's a whole other range and spectrum of sort of metaphysical workings that we can talk about. Same thing with projections and thinking about what numbers mean in a self-serving ways, to try to read numbers for potentialities that would be self-serving or serve another in some kind of extraordinary way. I believe that's inorganic inversions and negative alignments that bring out polarities that are, you know, not nice for the whole and don't respect the holistic view. But again, those are also topics for another time. Let me get back to the 0 to 9 model, just the basic understanding of the flow of the numbers. I'm going to make a video for every number so that it's quite clear what is there, because there's a lot in every single number. But first and foremost, understanding how the cycles grow, what is actually, how it's this straight linear 1 to 9 pathway becomes many different versions, you know, how it unfolds and grows into the staircase, into a spiraling, into a circling, into a lemniscatic figure 8 flow, into an overall toroidal that's reflective of the sort of 360 donut circular aura shape that's truly attempts to reflect most of the full happenings, except when we bring it out into triality and see the whole 3 systems at work. I think is probably, to me, one of the most fundamental and rudimentary versions of the whole energy body. A whole systematic energy body is basically what we're speaking about, but we each are reflections of this. Every single, wherever we determine to create, actually it ends up being one of these embodiments of sequence, because it's boundary subsetting that has purpose. And when we define purpose, we link 1 and 9 together, and bam, we have the whole. And of course, it's a very simplistic version of it. It's probably one of the most distant perceptions of what's taking place. Right? The further away we are from something, the smaller it is, the more it seems just one thing, right? And so my hope here for this sort of introduction to sequential growth is to sort of understand the process that's taking place, or the few processes. Of course, we can look at it in a stable setting of 0 to 9 to understand the phases. And these phases are different than the qualitative value of the number that I will talk about in each video separately. What I'm talking about here is the sort of stages of metamorphosis that take place. The architecture and sort of ladder right? I'm going to talk about the building of a ladder, how we put the ladder together. The 1 through 9 process I'm going to talk about later is literally climbing the ladder. The first step of the ladder, the second step, third, fourth to 9. And each step requires a different dexterity and a growth. So that climbing of the ladder is different than what I'm talking about here, which is the steps of building a ladder. If that hopefully makes sense to people. I'm hoping to make sense to myself even right now. So thanks for learning through this with me here. Because this is, I have, bare minimum knowledge here. I'm not trying to act like a grand master teacher of any of this, but instead a mere student onto something. I have a great hunch here that I'm looking to develop, a hypothesis here, if you will, listen with me. And feel free to critique and refine as well. If you are actually organic or intelligence listening to me right now, going through this course, there's nothing more than I would love to have actual interaction, classroom interaction exchanges of intelligence and questions. Because there's nothing better than seeing what I'm seeing from a new angle that I couldn't see by myself, so ahead of time, thank you for any comments or critiques. Anyways, so this ladder building is a 1 through 9 process. And number 1 is linear in a straight line. You could see at point A to B when we draw our straight line. Number 2 is sequential ascension. It looks evolutionary. It's sort of the staircase. Like I said, we could just, if you were to draw really simple, like right angles, as the stairs, up and over one, like up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Now I feel like I'm in graphing again. But what are we in but a great grand graphing? Oh, I love that. I love that model. Now 3 is that the lawn guy is here now and going to weave right under my window. You gotta love it. what a 3 moment. 3 is the spiraling. So it's realizing, okay, I'm not just on a staircase to somewhere, it's not just step up and away, up and away, up and away. It's a spiraling staircase, and I'm going around and around this kind of center point of seeking of truth around something, gaining a different perspective, gaining a different knowledge as I slowly rise, right? Now, stage number 4 is this circular understanding. It's the bringing of those points together and seeing, oh, they make a circle, right? And actually, it's a cycle, right? And seeing that truly cyclic happenings. 5 is the lemniscat, and that's like the figure 8. It's 2 circles where they touch together, right? And they create almost 0 point in between them. 6 I see as the toroidal. And like I mentioned, that's understanding that not just is it a figure 8 happening, a flat, skating on the ice, and it's just this one symbol. That is attempting to show a 3-dimensional image of a circle going all around 360 degrees. And that's really what the torus picture shows us, that perspective and understanding, that observation of what's really happening on a 3-dimensional, multi-dimensional level. The 7 becomes the geometrical vision of it. And we see, the tetrahedron inside that. We see sacred geometry, the platonic solids are actually what toroidals build. And 8 becomes the sort of never-changing, ever-changing, yet always one the same understanding that although these things, every single view has shown a different picture, they're all the same figure, and understanding that great one picture that we've been looking at the same thing just from different proximity and distance and a different understanding of the perspective that we're looking at. It, one thing, the whole thing. And then number 9 is the outer and the inner boundary of the entire thing. It's one sight and mind containing the one. It actually contains the whole, all of them in itself. And understanding that all of that can be simplistically seen as the one linear line. And so that's how we build a ladder of what these systems, this is how systems build into shapes. This is how everything takes form. It makes its way through these, it does hold these spaces and make its way through these general points in that kind of developmental sense. So understanding where you are in building the whole ladder lets you know how close you are to actually being able to climb the ladder or do any work, you know? And sometimes it's good to see in phases where you are to gauge knowledge, because all knowledge can be seen as this ladder. You know, any new thing that you're learning can be seen in that way even. And so, yeah, that's sort of the different point of views. Now, the counting of 1 through 9 can be seen in each one of these ways. So I'm going to go through counting through the linear model of 1 through 9 and what that looks like, what 1 through 9 on the stage 2 looks like when we have stages and phases, steps up and down, right? And then what the counting looks like in stage 3 when we have this spiraling happening, you know, and understanding then how these layers and phases actually come together to harness polarity and energy, and what we have with change, and why the numbers hold the qualitative values that they do, because 1, 5, 0, 0 and 9 all have these certain promises together, you know, and they have these certain points in them, and as does every other point, but those numbers particularly come together to link together to create the figure 8, to create the shapes, to create the vertices and the pole flips and the 0 points, the positive to negative switching. You know, it's and when we look at the numbers in their qualitative stance, it becomes quite clear why and how those things would happen, you know? So, yeah, this has just been the introduction here. Oh, the last thing I'll put in is one final understanding about the number 0 and about infinite discovery, discernment, and what sequential growth actually the purpose of it is. Because it's not just balls to the wall, every single potentiality has to have the numbers crunched out to infinity, you know, just as fast as we can, all the things 100% go at all times. There is infinite intelligence at work. There is organic development, symbiotic growth happening on multi-dimensional layers and levels, holistically happening. And so it cannot be all systems go at all times. And we see ebb and flow, we see cyclic growth, we understand the metronomes, we see the barometers at hand in seasons and in cycles display naturally for us in the natural world, and, you know, day and night simplistically enough. And calendars and our time measurements tell us this quite clearly, right? And so we have at hand discovery, freedom of will. You know, what we do with our time is at hand. That's our great gift of, you know, creator consciousness. This is what I see as the number 0. Again, we'll get into qualitative values, but just to speak about the portal and why 0 is a circle in itself, and the great reminder of the observer's eye, and the infusion of creativity, of unknown void, of all potentials being reignited, and remembering that it is an infinite exploration of manyness here at hand, the right to all potentials being seen and remembered. this is very valuable because things can get super pigeonholed. And we have this as creator consciousness, the lens of the observer can zoom in and out. It's a microscope and a telescope of conscious exploration and of worlds, of what has dominion, what's a system, what isn't, what is us, and what is separate from us. All of that is designated by creator consciousness, by you. There's subsettings, and we have higher structuring at work that defines each one of us into this fractal separation, display, and our own discovery of creator source intelligence through our potentials, our coordinate plane that we've been placed within the grid of life as, to the graphing of life, right back to that great metaphor that I love so much. We each have this point within the plane of discovery that we have been chosen and taken upon ourselves to explore within. And those numbers, we have a decimal point given to us. And we are able to dive into our subsetting and to discover and place within it as many zeros, as many numbers, to go and measure as deeply into things, create as much pixelation and new definition in our life as we'd like to, for every day that we're alive, for every moment that we have. We have this chance at hand, discovery. It's really helpful to have the architecture of sequential growth to live within, to monitor your life within, to create your dreams and to live your life, and to help you troubleshoot and problem solve with others, and to structure projects with even. And yes, to even help you to remember that lawn men need to make their money, right? And that my window faces, of course, right where there's a tiny strip of grass. So I don't know why you'd have to keep coming back here. But anyways, point being, we hold the right as to how much we want to zoom in and zoom out of all things, of everything that we're a part of every scene we see, of every project we have. And if we remember, okay, each one we seek has the right to discovery of 1 through 9, and we can take it as far as we'd like to, or not, because we can see from far away it's a line. A line is a line. You can only draw a line so many times. The linear line, the linear view, and the ultimate knowledge, it works from a perspective, and if it's worth going closer to, then it is, and if it's not, then it's not worth it. There's infinite space out here for discovery of all the other things that you're seemingly calling a line right now, because the closer you get to that line that you had an assumption about, you'll start to see, oh, there's way more details of that than I thought. Oh, I thought it was just this and that, but I guess it's that. And the more that you choose to be open-minded about a thing and actually want to learn about something, you will see it change. You will see more definitions. Just like the closer that you get to a painting, or the more you even look at the same picture every day, you could see more if you chose to, or you could make more in it. You could make a whole story up behind it if you wanted to. There's infinite ways to be inspired by a thing if you choose inspiration to be had, hope to be found, sequential growth also, this knowing of the cycles, this knowing of how to zoom in and out of things, helps you step out of things you've zoomed too far into for a while, and remember, oh yeah, there's a big world out there. Oh yeah, there's plenty of things I don't know. And feeling okay about that, feeling actually good about it, refreshed, renewed in that sense, because what is life but learning experiences? And in the great journey of your 1 through 9, it's not over yet. Clearly, if you're still learning, if you're still living, then it's still going, So zoom out a bit and really try to give yourself some freedom to remember where you're at in the growth of things, And when we have great reminders about how shifts and changes happen, how growth and steadiness is, how it's an ebb and a flow, and we don't just have even and odd numbers for no reason. We don't just have this figure 8, 2 circles coming together for no reason. It's the upper and lower loop have grand purpose, and they have their own rightful encirclement. They have a circumference that is there, you know, it's viable in its own standings. And so I think remembering those are great truths, we can, again, more gracefully step out of strict mind I'm stumbling my words here, restrictive mindsets, you know, and pull back, add some zeros into it. I will talk later, because this is already a half an hour and I haven't gotten into sort of the more nerdy version, the more numbers mathematical version of sort of moving the decimal around, seeing life as a number line and really bringing the number line into it. I think I'll do a separate whole video on that, because it's very simplistic and it's so straightforward, that, yeah, I think it is, I'll give it its own due homage and do a quick video on that. A visual, because it's very visual. But anyways, I guess I'm going to leave it. It's been a half an hour. Thanks for listening to me sort of blab over my own kind of notes and sketches. If you're interested in any way, like I said, I'd love to hear anything people have as replies or questions or thoughts or images that have come up for them as comments. Feel free to leave them or send me emails at any time. My email's always in the description. You can find me over on Telegram if you use that platform. But yeah, anyways, thanks so much for giving me your audience. Thanks for your contribution to our collective. We certainly wouldn't be the same without you. Thanks for witnessing mine. I will see you next time.